bought a house with my own money and down payment. But my girlfriend demanded joint ownership, then hired a lawyer, and got her parents involved when I refused. My partner, Carla, recently brought a lawyer and her parents into the picture when I declined to add her name to the house deed. Carla and I have been together for 3 years, living in a small apartment for the past 2. It was a fixer-upper, but we made it work. Everything seemed fine. We split all expenses equally, even though I earn more in the tech industry, having worked my way up for years. Carla has a decent job but doesn't match my income. About 8 months ago, we started discussing buying a house. Rent was becoming a waste of money, and I had been saving for a down payment. My excellent credit score meant I could easily get mortgage approval. Carla was enthusiastic, and we enjoyed looking at properties online and attending open houses, planning our future together. Things got complicated when we seriously considered making offers. A mortgage broker informed me that I could be pre-approved for significantly more money on my own than if we applied jointly. Carla has some student loan debt, and her credit, while not bad, isn't as strong as mine. The broker estimated we'd qualify for about $350,000 together, but I could get up to $500,000 individually, opening up options for much nicer homes in better areas. When I brought this up, Carla was initially upset. She felt it was strange for only my name to be on the mortgage, leaving her without a legal claim to the house. I explained that my name on the deed didn't mean it wasn't our home. We were living there and building a life together, which was what truly mattered. I also pointed out that a $350,000 house would likely be older or in less safe neighborhoods, whereas more pre-approval meant we could get something truly desirable. She seemed to understand, and we agreed I would apply for the mortgage alone. I used almost all my savings, $75,000 for the down payment, and also covered inspection and closing costs. Carla helped with smaller expenses like the moving truck and some new furniture, but the significant financial burden was mine. We found a perfect house for $420,000 in a great neighborhood with excellent schools and a large backyard. Everything we wanted. The mortgage approval was smooth, and Carla was involved in every step of the 2-month process, just as excited as I was. The issue arose at closing when Carla inquired about being added to the deed. I reminded her we had discussed this and agreed I would be the sole person on both the mortgage and deed for financial reasons. She said she understood for the mortgage but still expected to be on the deed for legal ownership. I explained that didn't make sense since she didn't contribute to the down payment or qualify for the mortgage. Why should she have legal ownership of something she didn't pay for? While it was her home, legal ownership was different. If something happened to us, she could walk away without financial responsibility yet still own half a house, which didn't seem fair to me. She became quiet and said she needed to think, and I honestly thought that was the end of it. However, over the next few weeks, she repeatedly brought it up, saying she felt like a tenant rather than a partner. This isn't true. I never asked her for rent. We split utilities, groceries, and household expenses as always. About a month after we moved in, she suggested contributing more to the mortgage to gain equity. I explained that's not how it works. The mortgage is solely my responsibility. Plus, I suggested she prioritize her student loans, which have higher interest rates. This is when she became very angry, yelling that I was controlling and treating her like a roommate. She accused me of holding the house over her head and making her feel insecure about our relationship. I was simply being practical about the financial and legal aspects of home ownership. I tried to reassure her that this didn't change our relationship, that we were still partners building a life together. But she insisted I was making all decisions without considering her feelings, which wasn't true since she was involved in choosing the house. Things became tense. She started meticulously tracking her spending on groceries and household items, making comments about paying to live in my house. I told her she was being unreasonable, as she never acted this way when we were renting and splitting costs. Last month, she proposed her parents help with money to get her added to the deed. Her well-off parents offered her $50,000 for the house. I told her that was kind, but it didn't work retroactively. I had already bought the house, put down the down payment, and taken on all the financial risk. Her getting money now didn't change that. Additionally, I didn't want to be financially linked to her parents. What if we broke up? Would I have to pay them back? Would they have opinions about the house? It just unnecessarily complicated things. Carla again became upset, accusing me of not wanting to commit which seemed absurd given I bought us a house. She argued that my refusal to put her name on the deed meant I was keeping one foot out the door. I pointed out that if anyone should worry about commitment, it was me. If we broke up, she could leave, and I'd be stuck with a $400,000 mortgage I might not afford alone. She said that's precisely why she wanted deed security, but that didn't make sense since she hadn't taken on any financial risk initially. We've been fighting about this for months, and it's severely impacting our relationship. She brings it up during every disagreement, acting like I'm a financial dictator. Last week, her sister, unaware of the full financial details, told Carla I was unfair and that couples should share ownership of major purchases. It's easy for outsiders to comment without knowing the actual circumstances. I love Carla and want us to work out, but I also need to protect myself financially. I worked hard to save for the down payment and build my credit. I don't think it's fair for her to get equal ownership simply because we're in a relationship. Perhaps I'm being too practical, but I've seen the messy and expensive outcomes when couples with significant financial assets break up. I don't want to be in that position. If we stay together long-term, maybe we can revisit it, like if we get engaged or married. But for now, the current setup makes the most sense. I understand her frustration and insecurity, but I also think she's unrealistic about what she's entitled to. Living together doesn't automatically grant ownership of everything I buy. That's not how relationships function. Update 1. After reading comments on my initial post, I began to feel bad and considered adding Carla to the deed, especially given how many people thought I was being unfair. I planned to discuss a compromise. Yesterday morning, Carla was unusually nervous. When asked, she said she had something important to tell me. I immediately sensed bad news. She admitted she'd been talking to a lawyer about the house situation, without my knowledge, not just for advice, but to explore her legal options. She knew that, as unmarried partners, she had no claim to the house, even with her contributions to utilities and groceries. However, the lawyer suggested she could establish an equity claim if she proved contributions to mortgage payments or home improvements. I asked why she went to a lawyer without talking to me first. She said she wanted to understand her rights before further discussion. But the lawyer advised that if she started paying part of the mortgage monthly with a written agreement, she might claim ownership interest later. Essentially, she was trying to find a legal way to force me to give her ownership of my house. When I asked if that was her plan, she said she only wanted to know her options. However, one doesn't consult a lawyer without intending to use their information. I felt betrayed that she went behind my back about our personal affairs. She claimed it wasn't going behind my back, just seeking professional advice. But why wouldn't she tell me unless she knew I'd disapprove? Then she revealed the real shock. Her parents weren't just offering money for the house. They were willing to loan her money to hire a lawyer if she needed to fight for ownership rights. I told her this conversation precisely proved why I didn't want to add her to the deed in the first place, as she was now trying to legally force me into giving her ownership of something she didn't pay for. She denied it, but the evidence spoke for itself. We had a huge fight, and she left to stay at her sister's for the night. I was honestly relieved to have space to think, too angry to even look at her. When she returned this morning, she apologized for not telling me about the lawyer, but still insisted the situation was unfair and wanted to work out an equity-building agreement. I absolutely refused, especially after her attempt to go behind my back and force the issue legally. She called me unreasonable and said she just wanted to feel secure in our relationship and living situation. I pointed out that she felt secure enough to lawyer up against me, so she wasn't thinking of us as partners. What truly bothers me is that she had been planning this all along, pretending she wanted to discuss it while already consulting lawyers and involving her parents. Had she been honest from the start, maybe we could have worked something out. But now, I feel I can't trust her. Reading the comments on my original post reinforced my caution. Many suggested I just add her to the deed to make her happy, but look what happened when I considered it. She immediately escalated to lawyers and legal threats. I'm not adding her to the deed or setting up any equity sharing arrangement, especially not now. If she wants to own a house, she can save for her own down payment and buy her own place. She won't gain ownership of mine through legal manipulation. I know this sounds harsh, but I feel like I avoided a major problem. What if I had added her to the deed months ago and then discovered her willingness to involve lawyers and family in our private affairs? I'd be caught in a legal mess. Carla is still at her sister's, and I'm unsure if she's returning. Part of me hopes she does because I love her and want things to work. But another part wonders if this situation has revealed her true nature when things don't go her way. We'll see what happens. But my mind about the house is made up. Update. Carla returned from her sister's after 3 days, and initially things seemed okay. She apologized again for the lawyer situation and said she wanted to work things out between us without involving others. I hoped we could move past it, but I was wrong. She started acting very strangely about money, meticulously tracking every single household expense. She would photograph grocery receipts, record payments for cleaning supplies, and even document her precise portion of the electric bill. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she wanted to maintain records of her financial contributions to the household in case it became relevant later. I told her that was ridiculous and paranoid, but she said the lawyer had advised her to document everything if she intended to establish any claim to the property. So, despite apologizing for going to the lawyer, she was still following their advice and essentially building a case against me. Last weekend, her parents visited, and that's when everything truly unraveled. I knew something was amiss because Carla was nervous all morning, constantly checking the time. When her parents arrived, they immediately wanted to discuss the house situation with me. Her dad began by expressing their concern for Carla's security and future, stating they found it unfair she lived in a house without legal protections. I explained the entire situation again, how I qualified for the mortgage, put down the down payment, and took on all financial responsibility. He dismissed this, saying that since we were in a committed relationship, we should be building assets together. Then her mom interjected, saying they were prepared to give Carla money to contribute to the house so she could have ownership. I told them the same thing I told Carla. It doesn't work retroactively. Then her dad said something that truly angered me. He stated that if I wasn't willing to share ownership of the house, perhaps I wasn't as committed to the relationship as they believed. I told him that was absurd and that buying a house for us to live in together was a huge commitment. But he argued that keeping Carla off the deed was like treating her as a tenant instead of a partner. I pointed out that she doesn't pay rent, and we split all other expenses equally, so she wasn't being treated like a tenant at all. Carla's mom then expressed concern that I might kick Carla out or break up with her, leaving her homeless, which truly infuriated me because I've never given anyone reason to believe I would do such a thing. I told them that if they were so worried about Carla's housing security, perhaps they should help her save to buy her own place instead of trying to gain ownership of mine. The conversation became very heated. Carla's dad accused me of being selfish and financially manipulative, stating that if I truly loved Carla, I would want her to have security too. I told him that was completely unfair, and that I had been nothing but generous with Carla, allowing her to live in a beautiful house without paying rent and sharing all the benefits of home ownership without any of the risks. Carla barely spoke throughout this whole conversation, just sitting there uncomfortably while her parents essentially attacked me. Finally, I told them this was between Carla and me, and that I didn't appreciate their involvement in our private business, especially since they didn't have all the facts. Her dad claimed Carla had told them everything about the situation, and they understood it perfectly well. That's when I realized Carla had been complaining to her parents about this whole thing, likely portraying me as some villain trying to control her. After her parents left, Carla and I had another huge fight. I told her I couldn't believe she had been sharing our private business with her parents and making me look bad. She said she needed support from her family because she felt like I wasn't listening to her concerns. I retorted that going to her parents and a lawyer wasn't asking for support. It was building a campaign against me. She denied it, but I saw right through it. She was trying to get everyone on her side to pressure me into giving her what she wanted. Then she said something that truly revealed what this was all about. She said that if we ever broke up, she would have nothing to show for the years we spent together and all the money she contributed to our shared life. I pointed out that she would have all the money she saved by not paying rent for years, plus all the experiences and memories and everything else one gains from a relationship. But she said that wasn't enough. That's when I realized this wasn't really about fairness or security. It was about Carla wanting to ensure she got something valuable out of our relationship, even if it ended. She was essentially trying to treat our relationship like a business partnership, where she gains assets regardless of her contributions. I told her that's not how relationships work, and that if she was already planning for our breakup, perhaps we shouldn't be together at all. She said that wasn't what she meant, but I think it was exactly what she meant. She wanted ownership of my house as insurance in case we didn't work out. We've been barely talking since then, and the whole house feels tense and strange. Carla spends most of her time in the bedroom or at her sister's place, and when we do interact, it's just about practical matters like groceries or utilities. Honestly, I'm starting to think this relationship might be over. The fact that she went to a lawyer and got her parents involved and tried to build a case against me instead of just talking to me about her concerns shows me that she doesn't trust me and doesn't respect our relationship. If she had come to me and said she was feeling insecure about her living situation and wanted to work out some kind of arrangement, maybe we could have figured something out. But instead, she went behind my back and tried to find ways to force me to give her what she wanted. And that's not how partners should treat each other. I'm glad I found out now instead of after we got married or had kids or something. At least this way, I can protect myself and my assets and not end up in some messy legal battle later on. Update 3. Carla moved out yesterday, and honestly, I'm relieved, even though a part of me is sad about how everything ended. But I know I made the right decisions throughout this whole mess, and I'm glad I trusted my instincts instead of listening to people who said I should just give in to keep the peace. After my last update, things just kept getting worse between us, and it became obvious that we weren't going to be able to work through this. Carla was barely talking to me, and when she did, it was always about the house and her wanting some kind of legal agreement about ownership or equity sharing. About a week ago, she brought me a document that she had apparently worked on with her lawyer. It was like a cohabitation agreement that would give her partial ownership of the house based on her contributions to household expenses and mortgage payments going forward. She wanted me to sign it and said it would make things fair between us and give her the security she needed. I read through the entire thing, and it was completely one-sided in her favor. It stated that she would get an ownership percentage based on what she paid toward the mortgage, but it also said that all her past contributions to utilities, groceries, and household expenses would count toward her equity in the house, which makes no sense because those aren't house payments. The truly absurd part was that it included a clause about what would happen if we broke up. It said that I would then she couldn't stay in the relationship because she needed to protect herself financially. I said that was fine with me because I was tired of being treated like the bad guy for not giving her ownership of something she didn't pay for. She said I was being stubborn and unreasonable, and that every couple she knew shared ownership of major purchases. But I told her that most couples who buy houses together actually contribute to the down payment and qualify for the mortgage together, which she didn't do. Then she said something that truly showed me what she had been thinking about this whole time. She said that she had invested 3 years of her life in our relationship and helped me become the kind of person who could afford to buy a house, so she deserved to benefit from that investment. I couldn't believe she was saying that, like she was taking credit for my career success and financial stability. I told her that was ridiculous and that I had worked hard to get where I am professionally and financially, and that being in a relationship with her didn't entitle her to the results of my work. She said that's not what she meant, but I think it was exactly what she meant. She felt like she deserved ownership of my house because she had been supportive of me during our relationship. But that's not how any of this works. Being a good girlfriend doesn't automatically make you entitled to your boyfriend's assets. We had one final huge fight about it where she accused me of never really being committed to our relationship and just using her for sex while keeping all my assets separate. She said she couldn't stay with someone who didn't see her as an equal partner. And I said that if being an equal partner meant giving her ownership of things she didn't pay for, then maybe we weren't compatible after all. So she started packing her stuff and called her sister to come help her move. It took her 2 days to get everything together, and the whole time she was acting like I was kicking her out. But I never asked her to leave. She made that decision herself. The night before she left, she tried one more time to get me to reconsider, saying that we could still work things out if I would just be willing to compromise. I told her that I loved her and wanted things to work out. But I wasn't going to be pressured into giving up legal ownership of my house, and that if she couldn't accept that, then maybe we weren't right for each other. After she left, I felt really empty and sad for a few hours, but I think I dodged a bullet. Honestly, what if we had gotten married, and then she decided she deserved half of everything I owned because she had been supportive during our marriage? What if we had kids, and she used them as leverage to get more of my assets in a divorce? At least now I know what kind of person she really is when things don't go her way. And I can find someone who actually wants to be with me for me, instead of for what I can give them.